Sony and Microsoft, we have corporate drama, mano a mano combat, at least in the courtrooms with the EU, and it's all over the Activision Blizzard acquisition. But there's been a few developments, so let's talk about it. Hello, humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. That's right, they're going back and forth again. Now, when it comes to this acquisition, let's face it, Sony is the biggest thorn in Microsoft's back. Now, let me say this. I own both these stocks, right? So I'm a shill for both companies. It doesn't matter who wins. I still win. But guys, let me say this. There's been some consequences to all this talk that Sony's been doing, right? And they're saying it's all about the fans. It's not about the money. It's not about the money. It's about the fans. And what do we know? Whenever somebody says it's not about the money, it's about the money, right? So let me show you what's going on here. Let's look at Sony's last statements, and let me show you what consequences these statements had. So this is via IGN. They have a clip here, a quote from Sony. By giving Microsoft control of Activision games like Call of Duty, this deal would have major negative implications for gamers and the future of the gaming industry. Sony said into a statement to GameIndustry.biz, we want to guarantee PlayStation gamers continue to have the highest quality gaming experience, and we appreciate the CMA's focus on protecting gamers. Guys, Microsoft has offered like 10 years of status quo, right? And they're saying, Sony says that's still not enough, right? Even though you're giving us 10 years of the same deal of availability, right? It's still not enough for us. Now, why are they saying this? Sony has the biggest install base, right? So because they have the biggest install base, they get preferential treatment, which would end, right, if Microsoft takes a hold of this property, right? One of the things that they've said, people are going to, not buy PlayStations anymore, and they're going to buy Xboxes because of the game. And that's, the numbers don't bear that, guys. Less, in the surveys that people have taken, it's less than 14% that I would actually do something like that. And, who do you know that would trade a PlayStation 5 for an Xbox right now? I mean, I really don't know anybody, because in the state of gaming right now, let me tell you, I barely touch my Xbox. A lot of the Microsoft games I play on my PC. I mean, that's just the way it is. I play on my PlayStation and I play on the PC. And I let my kids and grandkids use the Xbox. I even have them, use my Game Pass and stuff like that, because I usually just use it here on the PC, since this is where I do all my work, when I shoot the videos. So, Sony saying that people would just switch because of that one game, because of Call of Duty, I think is a little exaggerated, if not disingenuous altogether. Now, a lot of people are saying this, but because they're going back and forth and making all these statements, a U.S. judge has done something that will affect Sony negatively, and they may want to cut a deal, because this is really, guys, about money. And Sony wants to keep that preferential treatment, if you will, if Microsoft does obtain Activision Blizzard overall. And what are they doing? Well, a U.S. judge grants Microsoft access to internal Sony documents on Activision Blizzard deal. That's a huge, huge deal, because now Microsoft could take a look inside of Sony and get official documents, right? Do they really want this? Do they want to keep on going down this road? I think it'd be easier for everybody to just keep calmer heads here and just go back to the negotiating table, right? Because once one of these bodies like the EU or, any other governing body gives the green light, basically, it's going to go through. The other ones are going to follow suit. Now, giving a 10-year deal I mean, would a wars last? The maximum has been 10 years, right? Usually a console life is 5 years. So that goes way above and beyond anything, right? But the ramifications that these companies could have if they start revealing documents back and forth is nuts, right? You don't want to give your company information to your competitors. So I think Sony over here might have overplayed their hand, and they might be willing to come back to the negotiating table. Now, let me say this: Microsoft has more than enough money to make it Sony's, make it worthwhile for Sony just to back off and let this deal go through. But of course, they don't want to just completely fold their hand, and pay the highest price possible. So I think we're going to see these parties go to the negotiating table here pretty soon. Because at the end of the day, remember, Microsoft's plan is not to outsell any hardware maker. They don't care. What they want is the service. They want Call of Duty as part of Game Pass, so you can access the game through a cell phone, through any other platform. And if they have to make a 10-year deal with Sony or Nintendo or with anybody else, they will do it. They're looking at the long game in this. They're looking 20 years down the future, right? They're looking to dominate the cloud market in the future. And if they're able to get these studios, if they're able to cut these deals, it's going to be a lot easier for them to do that, right? Because it doesn't matter what people do. This war, as far as the cloud gaming, as far as, just the popularity in the retail market, Xbox has it right now. It's Microsoft's market to lose. So they want to keep that dominance. And Sony knows that if they're just sticking to hardware, the shelf life for that market is, 10 years tops, right? Like I said, they're going to have to start integrating other things into their ecosystem in order for them to be a viable company in the future. These are what you're seeing right now is the last gasps as far as their, Sony's current business model that they're making. Sony is a big company. They are a really big company, but they're small compared to Microsoft. Microsoft will get their way. What Sony can do, is go back to the drawing table, go back with Microsoft and, make a deal on the cloud gaming part of it, because that will be, the future. And they broke off the deal they had before, right? So they're really going back and forth here. But in the long term, guys, I don't see Sony, outdoing Microsoft, at least in the cloud market. They will, in the short term, completely beat them in hardware. But this deal, one way or another, will get done because Microsoft has the money. And I think Sony is overplaying their hand a little bit too much here, because their claim of a monopoly based on, just people not wanting to buy PlayStations or switching consoles over one game, a single game, I think is overblown. And I think most courts are going to see that. And eventually they will lose the case. What do you guys think? Would you switch consoles over one game? I don't know. I mean, I'll buy a console over a game maybe, but I wouldn't, right? If I had a choice, if I only had two choices right now, I'd just keep my PlayStation and keep on gaming on PC. And I think that's the same for most people. So I don't think these claims by Sony are going to hold up. Let me know what you think. Guys, thank you for joining me. Thank you for subscribing. Hit that like button on your way out. Thank you so much. Take care.
New videos every week. Make sure you don't miss out and subscribe.